All right, the IndyCar series started their season this past weekend at St. Petersburg, and we're here to talk about it. I'm Seth Dolby. This is not Matt Faust. This is Chase Folsom. Matt could not make it this evening, but Chuck, as we like to call him on this channel, Chuck will be filling in for us today. Chuck, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm just going to come clean and tell you guys right now, I can wear this front stretch hat and be a journalist all I want to. That does not mean I know all that much about IndyCar. I love watching it. I am I was going to say something funny. I couldn't think of anything. Not very knowledgeable about it. So whereas I know a lot about short track stuff and NASCAR, I am just purely a fan of IndyCar. So I'm going to take that angle today. I'm not going to lie to you guys and pretend I know all that much about what I'm talking about. I'm just going to tell you what I see from the casual fan perspective. So forgive me if I don't sound like an open wheel nerd like this guy.
Well, I would not call myself an open wheel nerd. I would also call myself a fan, but maybe I'm a step farther down the line than you.
You host a podcast now, so
yeah, but like anyone can host a podcast. I don't know if you noticed.
Well,
this
is true. We've established this. We do one, but like once you commit to the bit for a second season, I think you've crossed the bridge of maybe you took another stepping stone. I don't know.
This is true, but I think it's a good stepping stone. Or you as a casual are kind of a good base point for us to start with, especially since that's what having Fox on or having IndyCar on mainline Fox is kind of targeting. So right. I think that's kind of a good baseline for it too. So not all bad at all. But
no.
Speaking of Fox, they debuted this weekend. First time they've broadcast an IndyCar race since I believe 2002. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid broadcast. Was it revolutionary in any way? No, not really. Did Will Buxton do a good job? I think he did. Is he Lee Diffie? No, he's not. Could he be somewhere in that echelon? I think he could. I think it's entirely possible. He's clearly passionate, and it showed. Even if he maybe doesn't know all the ins and outs yet, he's very into it, and it showed. In general, I think it was a solid broadcast. The direction was a little awkward at times. They missed a couple big moments. But first time, I didn't have any problem with it. Non-offensive was the word I heard thrown around. I think that's a fine word for it. I enjoyed it, and I think we're going to have a good season with IndyCar on Fox.
Well, considering that NASCAR on Fox is highly offensive,
yes,
non-offensive for IndyCar on Fox is a good thing. I just went back and watched the highlight video just to brush up on what I watched, and again, as a casual fan, I think it's because it's the first time I've ever really listened to Will Buxton. I don't want to say I didn't enjoy it, but I think I found myself just missing Lee Diffie, because as a super casual IndyCar fan, like Lee Diffie was always my safety blanket for watching IndyCar. It was like, oh yeah, there's Lee Diffie. Okay, I can get excited about this. So it was a little weird. I thought I didn't see the whole race, so I mean, from what I saw, I thought the broadcast looked pretty good. I do wish we could, please, for the love of God, get rid of the cartoons. I don't know if they ever will. And I hated that they didn't have them on Saturday, but they did on Sunday.
Yeah, it's the Fox's affinity for those stupid cartoons across.
They made one for Bob Pockrass.
I didn't even see that one. That's pretty funny though.
They made a graphic for his picks to win, and they made Bob as a cartoon. It's kind of funny.
I kind of like that. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I guess if you're gonna commit to the bit, commit to the bit, and that is full commitment to the bit. So I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they have this strange affinity with these cartoons right now in every sport they do, and my understanding is it's one of those things that they're gonna have for a handful of years now. I guess it's been like 3 years already, 4 years maybe. I don't even know. It's been a hot minute. Um,
Other than that, I liked it though. I mean, I think
yeah,
it's when you compare it to, I would say you compare it to, did the broadcast fall off from NBC? I don't think so from what I saw.
no.
And then you compare it to the NASCAR counterpart, you're like, well, yeah, it's light years better than that. So
Yeah, the night and day
that,
difference. Yeah, the night and day difference from watching the IndyCar race and then going straight into the NASCAR Cup Series broadcast was stark and disappointing. Like, for real, like, especially for as good of a race as that was at Circuit of the Americas, watching it was largely a chore.
you couldn't
Like,
see the battle for the lead because they were showing you the grandstands. So
God, I yeah,
you're blessed, IndyCar fans. You're blessed.
I try not to get too upset about things when they're happening, but that kind of set me off a little bit. I'm not even gonna
Wasn't
lie to
even
you.
Guys, it wasn't even the fans. It was the back of the grandstands. It was the steel structure.
Yeah, it was bad. That's
Oh, anyway.
I would
We're
say
not here to
that's
bitch about that, but
yeah, but I think it is. I think it's relevant considering it's about Fox. But oh well, I'm really looking forward to how the rest of the season goes with it. I'm sure if it doesn't get better, I will be disappointed just from a sense of it needs to go up from here. But I think they will. They haven't shown me anything so far that tells me they're not invested in this and that they're going to work on it, um, and make it as good of a product as they can. Don't prove me wrong, Fox. Please, for the love of
please.
God. All right. So to get into the actual race, Scott McLaughlin won the pole, which he was my pick to win this race. So I was feeling pretty good about that at the moment. And then the race actually happened. Lap one, we made it 2 corners without crashing. Disappointing, I guess, is the way I'm gonna put it. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, we had a little bit of a checkup coming off turn 2, and Willpower completely cleaned out Nolan Siegel, and then collected Louis Foster in the melee, and it really did change the complexion of the race because A, you bring a caution out. B, guess who pits? I think a handful of other guys, but the main 3 that pit are Alex Blow, Scott Dixon, and Joseph Newgarden. They all
Yeah.
came down and pitted under that sequence, and got off the green tires. We're gonna talk about the green tires here in a little bit. I have some things to say about that. But yes, that really changed the outcome or changed the setting of the race from the jump. Um, Set us up down a different path.
Yeah. It's kind of disappointing as to see it start like that, especially when you consider whose fault it was. Like,
Yeah.
out of all the people you would expect to, hey, let's expect to check up and not ass pack somebody in the second corner of the season, Willpower should probably know better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he hasn't raced there forever. So
20 years.
yeah, right. So that's kind of disappointing to see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna out myself. So we were talking about this, Seth and I, at the start of every IndyCar season. There is one rookie that, especially the casual fan, has no clue who the hell they are. For me, that was Louis Foster. They were saying his name on the broadcast, and I was like, "Who? Who is this?" But
Yeah.
sorry to you, my good sir, that you were caught up in Willpower's mess, because that shouldn't have happened. But I do have a question for you, Seth. Is there anything to the fact that the soft tires are now green instead of red, or
Um,
they just changed the color?
so they changed the compound. They started working on this. I think it might
Wasn't
have
it
been the end.
Nashville?
Yeah, well, they started working on it I don't know when they started working on it. They started rolling this out, I believe, sometime last year, and they sort of went back and forth between the traditional reds and these new green ones, and then they brought them to some ovals. Um,
Well, no, the first time I ever remember seeing green was the last Nashville street race.
okay, they might have started. Yeah, it might have started back then.
And I never knew what it was about. I didn't know if it was they brought a new street race soft tire or what. I
Yeah, I think.
never.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I apologize. It was 2 years ago. Um, but yeah, I think they just changed the compound and just wanted
Okay.
to differentiate them. And then I'm assuming that, especially with they seem to, I don't know what they're gonna do for the rest of this season. It being at St. Petersburg leads me to believe it's going to be at least a majority of the street courses and probably the short ovals as well. Um, but yeah, I don't really know. I don't know if they really announced that beforehand. I think it's kind of like NASCAR. They kind of Goodyear kind of announces the tire codes kind of that weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So anyway, on that note, like you said, yeah, it kind of sucks that everybody that was important kind of just hopped on the same strategy as everybody else because they started on softs and then they didn't have to be on the softs anymore because
well
caution on
the leaders didn't.
lap
That's what
one.
the leaders didn't. And that's what changed the trajectory of the race.
Right. It
Yeah.
just I don't. It just sucks. Is like you kind of just handed a couple guys, especially a couple top guys, a free lottery ticket
Yeah.
because they gambled on starting on those tires first, and now they don't have to run them the rest of the race because they ran them for a lap and they junked them 15 cars back. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
sucks.
I guess we can go ahead and talk about that. I think with these tires, a lot was made of how long they lasted, and that's what they wanted. They wanted to see serious tire degradation and it not last very long. And I kind of think for years with the red tires, they didn't have that big of it. Like they were just faster and really didn't last that much less than the blacks, um, which was an issue. There were races where guys essentially the problem in IndyCar we've had is like you end up with a tire that you want to race on and then a tire you have to run a stint on. And it's been that way since I've been watching. And it just kind of, I feel like there needs to be like more of a balance between the tires almost because it feels like everyone has to run a Joker stint, like having it's a like a Joker lap in a fucking rally cross race or whatever,
Yeah.
which is okay, I guess. I guess it's this way in F1 too. I don't really know. I feel like
Well,
there's
not
got to be
really.
some. No, not really. Well, I
Because
mean, there are
like
definitely races where teams only want to run one type of tire in F1, but
yeah, but there's also a lot of times where I hate giving F1 any kind of credit, but I will
yeah,
give them credit for this. Like there are times when there are multiple usable strategies because the softs and the mediums are both usable or the I don't think there's hardly ever a place where the hards are that competitive, but they can be used
yeah,
if you got in some trouble on lap one and you're like, well, this is my only strategy play is to put on the hard to try to make it last. Like, I feel like their compounds are actually like more evenly spaced out.
well,
And I like the,
they also have 7 compounds or some shit too.
well, not anymore. I thought pretty,
They still have all those compounds. They just don't have
they
them
just call
colored.
them hard.
Yeah,
Okay. They just call them hard, medium, soft. Well, either way, point being, every race weekend they have 3 different compounds that are evenly spaced out most of the time. Whereas
yeah,
to your point, IndyCar is just kind of a I guess we'll run these tires for a little bit since we have to. And
yeah,
that's not what you want.
yeah.
So,
So I would either make the primaries a little softer or add a little bit more longevity to the soft compound. Either way, I would go with taking away some strength to the primary tire in this case. I would love both tires to degrade heavily, but there actually be a benefit to running the softs. That would be that would be where I'm at with it, instead of it basically just being a qualifying tire right now. I don't know. I think we can look into that at some point. But anyway, not a whole lot happened for about the next 50 laps, I'll be honest. Same thing. The strategies were kind of going. Guys kind of cycled to the front. McLaughlin cycled to the front, or McLaughlin was in the front, and then I think Lundgaard and Rossi cycled to the front at some point, and then the aforementioned trio of champions cycled to the front, and then the process repeats. And then coming to the last stop, Alex Palou, of course, jumps, undercuts Dixon and Newgarden in the pits. Dixon, of course, didn't have a radio. And yeah, gets himself out in front. It wasn't entirely over yet. We had our Lord and Savior Stingray Rob in to help us out and try to make this a battle. Newgarden had gotten by Scott Dixon for second, and Newgarden began to close on the high-powered duo of Alex Palou and Stingray Rob, and got within, I believe he got within half a second, maybe right under that. And then at that moment, it took about 5 or 6 laps, because the hybrid is the greatest thing to ever exist in IndyCar racing. I love IndyCar racing, but ever since they've added this hybrid unit, it has done next to nothing except make it harder to pass. And yeah, I don't get it.
I don't know if they pay attention to their counterparts over in NASCAR, but that ain't what you want.
No, it's not.
There's this dirty little cuss word in motorsports called dirty air.
Yeah.
That we don't like to say, but unfortunately we have to, because of situations like this. Because my boy Stingray Rob, that was honestly one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I mean, he just sat there and roadblocked Alex Palou for, like you said, 5 or 6 laps. As soon as Palou got by, he pulls out of Newgarden's way and then pulls back up and parks it in front of Scott Dixon. That was the most blatantly obvious. Like, hey, I'm going to try and screw you over as best I can.
Yeah.
I guess Team Chevy has a hierarchy in more motorsports than one, huh?
Yeah, and all of them they participate. That's Chevy for you. I say that
Penske and
if the situation had been reversed and Joseph Newgarden was trying to lap a Honda, I believe the situation would have been the same. I don't know that for a fact, but I do believe that would have been the case.
I just think it's funny that I could sit here and say that Roger Penske and Rick Hendrick aren't so different after all.
I mean, clearly they're not. They're billionaire race team owners. What do you think?
Smaller Chevy team, block for me now.
Or else.
Yeah, or else.
Yeah. Well,
you might have to get sat down and have the talking to.
The talking to. Yeah. No, I mean it is that way. Now, to be fair, Penske they do have a lot of alliances with other teams. Their damper package is very popular, so it could have been more than just that. Also, in defense of Stingray Rob, he is on the lead lap at this point. He is well legally within his right to do this. And I mean, theoretically, if he is able to hold off Alex Palou, he does end up with a lead lap finish, which is, it doesn't actually mean anything, but like, deep down it does. So I can totally understand doing it. It does look a little goofy when you also fuck with the third place guy in the process as well.
That's the part that gets me. Yeah. The parking it in front of Dixon part is the part where I think it's really funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but that's 100% what happened there.
It's so funny too because Will's like, "Oh, he tried to get out of the way," and Hinch is like, "No, he didn't. No, he
No,
didn't."
he didn't. No, he didn't. But yep, Alex Palou finally does get by Stingray Robb, drives away, and then Joseph Newgarden runs out of gas in the last lap, loses second to Scott Dixon, does find a way to make it home in third somehow. Um, and yeah, Alex Palou picked right up where he left off last year. Ass whooping the field again. In the most Alex, and somehow the most Alex Palou way. I know he does have a tendency of just winning the pole and leading all the laps and winning the race, but it's these races where he didn't qualify that well and just still ends up in the front that makes me roll my eyes a little bit. But at the same time, it's absolutely a masterclass he puts on. I mean, I swear to God, every week. Um, I mean, unless some incident happens in front of him that he can't get away from, he's probably going to finish on the podium. It just is what it is at this point. I don't know how you beat that.
Yeah, the guy's pretty good. Uh,
That is certainly a way of putting it. Yeah.
when you when there's a lot of guys that are really good race car drivers, and they have a. I'm trying to think of how I'm trying to put this. There's a specific formula that they can use to win.
Yeah.
And it works well for them and it works often. Those are really good race car drivers. When you have a guy that can win anyway, anytime, anywhere, and it doesn't matter what the formula is, that is a guy that's a step above everybody else. And that's what Alex Palou is. It doesn't matter where we are. It doesn't matter how the race is playing out. He can qualify first, last. It doesn't matter. He's going to be in contention for the win. And that's why he is a 3-time champion.
Yeah. And he never puts a foot wrong. Like almost ever. I think I can count. I think I can count on one hand, and I don't even think that would. I don't even think I'd fill the hand up. But how many times I've seen him actually legitimately put a foot wrong as an IndyCar driver? He just doesn't do it. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's one of those deals where it's like you said, rolling your eyes. It's kind of annoying because it's really impressive.
It's one of those things where it's like it's kind of like Scott Dixon. I mean, it's pretty much like Scott Dixon, except I don't want to say this because it sounds like recency bias, but he's like Scott Dixon, but faster. Like Scott Dixon has had and does have a knack for ending up a lot further up in the running order than they should be based off how fast the car is through strategy or what else. Usually fuel strategy is his main weapon in that regard. But Alex he's just quicker, and that's usually how he does it. Like obviously they had to use strategy on Sunday to get that done, but it doesn't happen if he's not putting in those wicked fast in laps and out laps that he always does. No one can beat him on an in and out lap in a pit stop sequence. They just can't.
What I always remember, like being younger and watching IndyCar on and off, is like Dixon was like David Pearson's Silver Fox vibes. It was like, why? How did you do that? Because you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
With Palou, it's like he's gonna do it. Of course he should have done it because he's faster than everybody else. So it's kind of different. But what do you know? They're teammates. So I'm sure he had to learn it from somewhere. And when you hang out with a guy in the shop all the time, I'm sure that helps.
It certainly does. But yeah, dude's got all the raw pace and the smarts. And his teammates with Scott Dixon. Yeah, this was always going to be that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just is what it is. I don't know. So yeah.
Fourth championship incoming.
Yeah. I mean, Matt and I both, when we picked a champion, we said we're not going to pick Palou, but that was basically us saying probably Palou, but who else?
Who'd you
Uh,
guys pick?
I picked Scott McLaughlin. No, he picked Scott McLaughlin. Sorry, and I picked Dixon. So
I will. I guess I'll give you a pick if you want one.
if you'd like,
I will pick Pato.
Pato. Okay. Shout out to Pato. They had a horrible weekend rolling by 20 laps into this race. Like it was looking dire. They had made it, I believe they had made an extra pit stop to everybody. It just was not looking very good. And the broadcast must have missed it because I didn't even realize until we went to start this, but he finished 11th. So pretty good recovery, all things considered. Um, the McLaren team is going to, I mean, Lundgaard was pretty quick. I'll give him that. So Lundgaard was pretty quick. Obviously, we don't really know what Siegel had, unfortunately.
He
But
had Will Power's front wing in his ass.
yeah, that they don't go very fast when they're like that, to be honest. They usually do better when not impacted rectally. So yeah, that team's gonna need to be more consistent. Um we'll see how it unfolds. It's hard to make any broad sweeping remarks about a championship one race in, but also when Alex Blow does shit like that, it's pretty easy to go, yeah, it's happening again.
Yeah. You know, in those closing laps, Newgarden could have used that extra push to pass.
Yeah, he certainly could have. It probably would.
Helped.
Well, no, he ran out of gas, so I don't think it would have helped.
Well,
it would have made him run out of gas sooner, actually.
You know, when you say that,
yeah,
they probably would have gotten caught a lot faster because of that too.
Probably they'd have been like,
probably wouldn't have taken a month and a half.
Yeah, they'd have been like, how exactly were you on the button for 137 seconds in the last 20 laps? How's that math there, guy?
I didn't do it.
No. Nor did they this time, we think. Now we know. They're looking for that now.
They'd be really stupid. They'd be really stupid to do that 2 years in a row.
What's really stupid? No. Do you remember how they got caught?
No.
They got caught because they left it on again at Long Beach, and during, I think, practice, IndyCar race control turned off push to pass, and what do you know? Here comes the Penske cars with push to pass. That's how they got caught. If they literally put their hand in the cookie jar, got away with it, and instead of going, okay, we shouldn't keep doing this, they were like, let's keep doing this.
I didn't know that. That's really good.
Yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much all we got for this one. Solid race. Some issues, solid broadcast, some issues, pretty much what we expected. Thermal is up in 3 weeks. Yes.
Is that a points race this year?
It is a points race this year.
Interesting.
Yes.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I vastly prefer that. If you're gonna do it, make it a points race. The $1 million challenge was goofy as all hell to me. So
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it'd be cool for them to have like an all-star type race. Just maybe not. I feel like if they're gonna do it, it needs to be like at an oval.
Yeah, I think it could work, but that track was not it for that. I see. The thing is with thermal is I think, based off what I saw a year ago, I think it's a cool track. Like watching them qualify on it was really fun, but the actual race was lackluster. I think having the full field and it being like a full race with pit strategy and stuff, I think it can end up being a pretty solid race. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. And then I'll make my judgment then. So that's pretty much all we've got. He's been Chuck. I've been Seth. Thank you to Chuck for filling in this week on short notice. Be sure to tune in. You'll see Chuck again later this week. We are going to talk about the opening weekend for the Cars Tour at New River All-American Raceway. That should be up on Thursday or Friday. And then if Austin Cindric doesn't get suspended this week, I'm going to have a video about that. So be sure to tune in to all the upcoming videos on Big Motor Small Blade, and we'll see you next time. Bye, Gary.